wonderful reflection of your exceptional career in the saddle. Those dizzy heights, winning multiple derbies, million-dollar races, of course, back in the heady 1980s for the wealthiest names in the game, Sess. It certainly was a long way from the tiny kid who grew up in those tough back streets of Boulder. A town, I might add, has produced many other Hall of Famers as well. How did this rise to racing stardom begin?
Mac, it's a long story really, mate. As you said, I was born in Boulder. It's a great place to grow up, and there's a lot of athletes that come out of actually Boulder, Kalgoorlie, and they were good days. My mother and father, we lived in Davis Street in Boulder. They were good days, yeah.
How did you finish up getting into horse racing from a non-racing family?
Yeah, well, actually, there was a guy that lived down in Davis Street, called Bobby Peel. He had a few horses in the backyard, and I used to wander down there. His son was a mate of mine, and I used to wander around the backyard with the horses. And then actually what happened was my parents split up, and we moved to Bunbury for about 4 years. There I met a guy that's here today, one of my longest friends, Steve Larson. His stepfather had horses called Kevin Buglehole. I used to hang around the stables there quite a lot, and got interested in horses then. And then when I was about 12, my parents moved up to Perth, and then I got introduced to a trainer called John Davison. I worked for him for about a year and a half on just the weekends, and then I got signed up to him as a apprentice in 1974, December 1974. I think I was about 28 or 29 kilos. So yeah, I always wanted to be a jockey. I never thought of being anything else.
You're almost back to that riding weight looking at you this evening. You're looking very sharp.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Ascot Racecourse, March 14, 1976.
Fantastic day.
Take us back to it.
Yeah, it was great. I was apprenticed to John Davison by this time for about a year and 3 months, I think. And he said to me on the way through when I was riding through trials, he said, "Sess," he said, "I'll put you on the win of your first ride." And I thought, "Oh, you're talking bull." And the horse he picked out for me to ride was a filly called Toko, a 3-year-old filly, and she'd had one run beforehand. And I think either Graham Webster or David Brosnan rode her, and she ran about third or fourth. And then he put me up. It had 48 kilos, and I rode it claim 3, 45 kilos. I had a stone of lead and a stone saddle, and it won, so it was great. It was my first ride in a race at Ascot. It won. It was fantastic. Yeah,
what a dream way to start.
It was great because what actually happened is all my friends were there and all my family was there to watch me have my first ride, and it was just beautiful. Great day.
Fantastic. Of course, you've always been regarded as having the talent and the great class to succeed on the international stage as your career unfolded. Successful stints over in Mauritius, which was a very thriving racing hub, of course, there, and then Singapore later on. And I think it only probably confirmed what everyone was thinking, where you were headed. You were leading the Singapore Jockeys Premiership. You'd just ridden St Gallen to victory in the Group 1 Singapore Gold Cup. Then you received a telephone call that probably changed everything. What was it?
Yeah, you're right, Macca. I was leading the Jockeys Premiership by about 7 or 8 winners, I think, and it was getting into November, I think it was, November '86, and I had a phone call from Laurie Connell, and I knew Laurie quite well beforehand. I'd ridden for him quite a bit, and he rang me up, and at the time they had a guy called David Walsh riding for him, a New Zealand guy. Well, David was having problems with Bus, or not having problems, Bus was having problems with David. He wasn't happy the way he was riding his horse and all that type of stuff, and so they were in the transition of splitting up, and my name was brought up with Laurie as far as replacing David, and he rang me up and asked me if I'd come back and ride for him, and at the time I said, no, I'm not really interested in Laurie. And he just said, no, come back and ride for me on this weekend, which was the next Saturday. He said, ride for me Saturday and Monday and see how you go. So I said, okay. I spoke to the guy I was riding for, a fella called Lim Hog B, and we didn't have many runners that weekend. He said, no, that's fine. Go back and ride for him and just see how you go. So on the Saturday, I rode one winner for him, which was a horse called Concrete, which was a great horse. And then on the Monday, I rode 3 winners for him, and one of those winners was Fair Sir. And so Laurie being Laurie, when I went and sent him on the Monday, for payday, obviously, Tuesday, payday, obviously. He spoke to me and he put an offer to me that was too good to refuse, and so I decided to come back, which I think was a changing point in my career, without a doubt. It's a little bit sad, really, because I think if I had stayed on, well, I would have won the premiership in Singapore if I had stayed on that year. But as I said, it was a good decision I made, and it was a turning point in my career.
Yeah, you mentioned Laurie Connell, Robert Holmes at court, Sir Ernest Lestier as well,
Yeah,
the biggest
great
names in
guys.
WA racing. I mean, you were riding for them, riding the best
Yeah.
horses going around, one that you've already mentioned. Is it fair to say that your reputation was gained as well when more money was on, the better you rode again? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, well, I was brought up that way, really. It's not like today they go around for $250 a ride, and it's pretty easy money. In my day, you weren't getting paid that sort of money, so you had to be pretty clever. And you had to get a quid one way or another, didn't you, when you first started? So I become very good at it. And over the years, as I said, riding for blokes like Laurie, or whether it was Robert Holmes de Court, he was fantastic to ride for. And then there was Sir Ernest, and these guys were just great guys to ride for. And I become a very good money rider, but I could handle the pressure really well. Riding in big races and riding for big punters and big owners, it didn't really worry me at all. I handled the pressure really well.
We just watched in that magnificent package of your riding, aboard horses like Fair Sir, should have won a Cox Plate.
Should have done, yeah. I actually rode him too well. That was my problem. The horse reared at start a little bit, and I give him a kick up out the gates. And if I had just stayed back behind him and followed Harry White on the eventual winner of Rubiton, I probably would have won the race. There wasn't much between him and Rubiton because they'd met before and there wasn't much in it. But that day I actually rode a really, really good race on the horse and cost me the race, because if I had sat back with Harry and went with Harry, we would have outsprinted him. But we got in a bit of a tuffle on the corner and that cost him the race, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a shame.
Yes,
He was a great horse.
An ounce
Great
of luck
horse.
is worth a ton of good judgment, as
Without
they
a doubt,
always
without a
say.
doubt.
Heroicity, Balearly,
Fantastic horses.
Rare Flyer, Carry a Smile, names that are just a roll call of the absolute best. Was there a favourite amongst them? Who was the pick of those, do you think?
I think Carrier Smile was. I think Carrier Smile was a horse that had untapped potential. When Holmes de Court retired him only because the sire Hallback just died, and so they retired him. But in that year, he won all the races leading up to the railway, and he ran third or fourth beaten in the railway. Had every possible chance, but didn't run out the mile. But I was always of the opinion that he was definitely a Group 1 horse in Melbourne, and had been to Melbourne quite a bit and ridden in Group 1 races, and this horse was as good as they come.
Cess Racefalls, they're the peril of every jockey
Yeah, they're not
who's
good.
ever ridden. You've had your share.
Quite a few.
I'll never forget the one that crashed, 2000 CB Cox Stakes.
Yeah.
7 came down. You were one of the 7, riding a horse called Karazi,
Yep.
who fortunately recovered and went on to become one of the great steeplechasers, jumpers in
Yeah,
Japan.
fantastic horse.
You were lucky to survive that, to ride another day, weren't you? Because it was as bad a fall, I think, as anyone has ever seen.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that it was a terrible fall. I was in a position in the race. I was running third or fourth, and I was just outside Paul Harvey. He was riding. I'm not sure what the horse he was riding, but anyway, there was a horse coming out underneath him. He fell and he went down. I was the second one to go down, and then another 5 went over the top of me, and I was okay. I was actually flying along with the fall, as you do, and in a 16-horse field. And then all of a sudden, the last horse was a horse called King Brian, where mate Stephen Miller was riding, come over the top of me and kicked me right in the stomach. And I ended up with pretty horrific injuries after that. But anyway, that's part and parcel of the game, mate.
You brush it off rather nonchalantly, but I remember visiting you in hospital, and it was as though you'd been involved in a car smash.
Yeah, it was pretty horrific.
Pretty horrific.
Yeah, I think I was in hospital for that for nearly a couple of weeks, I think, yeah.
It was a fall that ended your career, though, wasn't it? It wasn't a race fall, it was a track fall.
Yeah. Quite unfortunate, actually, because I went to track work one Thursday morning, and one of my very good friends, Graham Webster, had a horse that I was riding, a horse called Struck Oil, and Graham asked me to go out and gallop it, and I went out and galloped it, and he straightened up and had a massive heart attack. And what actually happened, when he had a heart attack, he crashed in through a steel fence and shattered my leg in multiple places and broke my arm and ended up upside down on top of me. And it was horrific. After that, that basically ended my career, which was sad, really, because I didn't want my career to end that way. I wanted to, end in another way.
Your career, as great as it was, wasn't without a small level of controversy from time to time. Have you harboured any regrets looking back at your time in the saddle?
Not really, Macca. The only thing I do regret is that I always wanted to finish race riding on my level, on my terms. Like I wanted to actually go to the races and say, boys, if I ride a winner today, that's going to be enough for me. You won't see me for a while. And it never happened because I got caught up, after that fall, I got caught up in a pretty ordinary court case. It didn't really go the way I thought it would, and it ended up turning me away from racing for quite a while, actually. And it's only through the luck of my love of my friends and family that they brought me back into racing, and now I've got a great job. I work for one of my best mates, and I'm heavily involved in the racing industry, and I'm loving it. Yeah,
It's fantastic.
Yep.
Does tonight's induction into this Hall of Fame go in some way to restore, do you think, what should have been?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, it's right up there. It's probably it's a great honour, and I thank all the people that voted me in, and it's probably the greatest thing that's happened to me in my life.
As I can say, personally, it's a richly deserved honour.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Mark Sestich into the WA Racing Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Well done, mate.
Thank you very much.